Tonight, batches of unauthorized cigarettes are making their way around the island, and the St. Lucia Bureau of Standards is warning consumers to stop using them. The UWP calls for the removal of Philip J. Pierre for poor leadership. And the Minister of Justice touts the reopening of the Nayara Court. We have the details of these stories and more coming up.
This is the Hot 7 Nightly News with Lovely and Amy Joseph.
Good evening. It is Friday, the 1st of February 2019. Welcome to the Hot 7 Nightly News. I'm Lovely St. Amy Joseph. Thank you for joining us. The United Workers' Party says Philip J. Pierre is unfit to serve under any leadership position as it concerns citizens of St. Lucia and has called for his immediate removal. After witnessing the debate on a motion of no confidence presented by the Labour Party against Prime Minister Alan Chastney, the United Workers' Party expressed its concern that the supporters of the SLP are being misled and misrepresented by someone who continues to prove that he's unfit to lead, an individual who they say falsely accused the Prime Minister and disregarded the fact that he was voted in by the people. They say Philip J. Pierre does not have the best interests of citizens of St. Lucia at heart, yet walks out on his team members when faced with adversity. The UWP says it was evident after viewing the performance of the leader of the opposition that he, quote, has no backbone and is incapable of leading even when presented with the slightest sign of defeat, end quote. The UWP says for this reason it is calling on supporters of the Labour Party to recognize that there is no more Labour Party under the fragile leadership of Philip J. Pierre, and so he needs to be removed. Batches of unauthorized cigarettes are making their way around the island, and the St. Lucia Bureau of Standards is warning consumers not to purchase them. They are also warning vendors to cease selling them or face consequences if and when caught. Rochelle Gonzalez reports.
The St. Lucia Bureau of Standards last week intercepted a brand of non-conforming cigarettes on the market and is sending out a stark warning to both smokers and vendors. Head of the Compliance Department at the SLBS, Hubert Reynolds, told Hot 7 News that the matter is a serious problem on many levels. The Bureau was alerted about the product 1 week ago, and according to their intel, the product has already been distributed across the island.
Those cigarettes didn't enter the market the usual way through customs. The cigarettes do not conform to the standard for labeling of tobacco products. And from our visual examination, it appears the cigarettes are aged, they are spotted, and we have received complaints from smokers that the cigarettes tend to be very strong and it's burning the throat, etc., etc. We want to advise consumers to stop using the cigarettes and to dispose of it, and also advise vendors to cease the sale of the cigarettes and to either dispose of whatever stock they have left or submit it to the St. Lucia Bureau of Standards for disposal.
Reynolds indicated that one encounter with a vendor of the cigarettes turned verbally abusive. He issued a special warning to persons who ignore the warnings and sell the unauthorized products regardless.
We want to advise vendors as well that it is a breach of the Standard Act to sell non-conforming products. And there is a fine of $10,000 and $1,000 for every day the product was available for sale. Okay, so the Bureau is very serious about prosecuting anyone we find selling those cigarettes.
Reynolds said they are currently investigating the source of the products as well as the methods used to bring them into the country.
How it entered, we're still investigating, but the Bureau has a system in place for when items for which there is a compulsory standard enters St. Lucia, that we would be notified through customs. So customs have the software called Executor, and so customs have entered the HS codes for products that we are interested in inspecting. So when an importer has one of those products, it immediately goes to our red lane. So we become aware of it. But this item did not go through that process.
The head of compliance made an assurance that this sort of activity is extremely rare and that in his 15 years working at the Bureau, this is his first case of this nature. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I'm Rochelle Gonzalez.
The St. Lucia Labour Party has responded to WASCO, warning that it must not engage in partisan political activity or perform the role of advocate for any minister. Dr. Ernest Hiller noted that WASCO is a statutory body and must always serve the national interest and not be used for political purposes. The Labour Party believes that whoever instructed WASCO to issue the press statement that it did on Thursday is attempting to mislead the public. The Labour Party says it stands by its questioning of the bidding process based on information received and says unless and until the Labour Party and the people of St. Lucia get clear answers or clarity from WASCO, the party will continue to clamour for those answers. Minister for National Security and Justice, Senator Herman Gill Francis, met with the media on Friday for the grand reopening of the Nayara Courthouse in VG. The building closed its doors over 6 months ago, reducing the rate of court proceedings to a snail's pace. Rochelle Gonzalez reports.
A breakthrough in the justice system has been made with the reopening of the Nayara Courthouse. The courthouse, which stands opposite the VG playing field along the John Compton Highway, closed its doors over 6 months ago for both security and renovation purposes. However, with the need for courthouse space growing more urgent with cases piling up, leaving a major backlog, Justice Minister Herman Gill Francis revealed to the media that the Prime Minister took matters into his own hands. Francis did not disclose the source of the funds allocated for the project.
The government decided that the court is so important that we had to spend the monies that were necessary to bring the court up to scratch. Those monies that were expended were about almost $1 million, just below $1 million was spent in refurbishing this courthouse. It was not money that was allocated for. The Honorable Prime Minister had to find monies outside of the budget, and I want to thank him for being so gracious in allowing us to proceed. Today you will see, we would give you a little tour of just one of the courtrooms. As you know, there are areas that we will not be able to show you because of security concerns, but we will try and give you as many of the areas that have been improved, so you can see that this is now a very, very, very efficient courthouse. And again, I want to thank the Prime Minister and the Minister of the Public Service, Mr. Wallace Raymond, for giving us that sort of the ability to do that.
Francis revealed that there is currently a backlog of over 1,000 cases in need of being seen, and he urged judges to push as many of those cases as quickly as possible. The use of the Borderley Courthouse, he said, is even more important at this time.
This discussion has to be had with the Chief Justice, and unfortunately she's off island, and we are arranging to meet her sometime next week when she comes in. We must make use of the Borderley Courthouse. It's there, it's been furnished, and we must use it so that we can bring down the backlog of cases and persons can have ready access to justice.
In the past, the government occupied 3 floors of the building for court purposes, whilst the owner of the building occupied the top floor, which proved to be problematic to persons wishing to conduct business on the top floor for security reasons. This has since changed, and the government now occupies the entire building, indicating more expenses for them to foot.
It is a cost for government, and my PSA will tell you, I mean, we had to scratch our heads sometimes to make budget. Next week we have to go to the Prime Minister to justify whatever we ask for the runnings of the court. We also have to look at the police force, and there are a lot of things that the police need. So yes, we're going to try and get out of this building as quickly as possible.
The minister revealed that security will be extremely tight. The courthouse has been scheduled to resume cases on Monday, the 4th of February. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I'm Rochelle Gonzalez.
The Castries Constituency Council has unveiled its newest initiative aimed at fighting crime. The introduction of the City Police Emergency Hotline is set for a launch later in the month of February. Solange Alfred reports.
In a bid to curtail the level of criminal activity within the city of Castries, The Press and Communications Manager in the Office of the Mayor, Jason Hollandseed, says a new initiative in the way of a hotline is in the works for the month of February.
We are very ecstatic about our City Police Emergency Hotline, which will be launched later this month. As a matter of fact, some time ago we did indicate that we would have launched our emergency hotline, and that is, similar to the service offered, the 999 system that we know, that traditional service that is offered. We believe our contribution is not solely towards security, safety and security within the city of Castries, but contributing on a national level. I think, that is the whole thrust, and Mayor Francis is very excited by that new service, which will make it very easy for the general public to share information as well.
Hollandseed says that the new emergency hotline will work in tandem with the pre-existing hotlines in St. Lucia and will hopefully bolster the efforts to decrease crime in the vicinity of the Castries area.
It is one, not to compete, but to sort of relieve the strain on that 999 system, because we're operating within the city of Castries, and if an incident occurs in any area, persons would be able to contact our emergency hotline, where our city police officers will be able to respond quickly to whatever incident there is.
The Mayor's office continues to strive to complement the work of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force to achieve safety of the residents and visitors of Castries City, with the introduction of City Police on bikes, and now gearing up for the launch of the emergency hotline. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Solange Alfred.
Thank you, Solange. The National Security Minister says he remains impartial to the use of the death penalty. Senator Herman Gill Francis says the people of the nation should have a say about whether it is reintroduced or not.
And with the plans for looking at constitutional reform and legislative reform, that can be brought to the people. I think St. Lucians have to have a say as to whether they still want the death penalty or not. Well, you know my position on the death penalty. I'm neither here nor there. I am for the law. The law says that if you kill, and there are certain categories of murder, that you should face the hangman. We have not been able to execute anybody in the last maybe 10, 15 years. 25? I don't think it's that. Well, we're close to that. But that doesn't mean that it shouldn't be done. That's what the law says.
That was Justice and National Security Minister, Senator Herman Gill Francis. You're watching the Hot 7 Nightly News. Stay with us. We'll be right back.